All right, guys, we're on 11.1 today. So, here we go. 11.1, areas of parallelograms and triangles. What's the area of a triangle? 1/2 base times height. You've known that forever. Parallelogram, maybe you don't remember, but it's just base times height, okay? So what I want to show you is the base. Oh, here we go. The base is this one. The height is that one. I think you guys kind of just know that. But keep in mind, base and height, there's going to be a perpendicular. There's going to be a right angle there, okay? The triangle, again, you've known forever, 1/2 base times height. Here's your base, here's your height. But if you have an obtuse triangle, like this, here's your base, right? That makes sense. They're going to extend the triangle with dotted lines, and here's your height. So I want you to know when you get to a picture like that, it's not always the height inside the triangle. If it's an obtuse triangle, the height is going to be outside the triangle. Do you see what I'm saying? If it's a right triangle, obviously the height is part of the triangle. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we're going to have to remember these two special right triangles. We have our 30, 60, 90 and our 45, 45, 90. The 45s, across from them are x's. The hypotenuse is an x root 2. Across from the 30 is x. Across from the 60 is x root 3. Hypotenuse is 2x. That's old, right? If we have to, we can use SOHCAHTOA, right? That's fine too. I don't care. You can pick either one. But sometimes the 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90 is a little bit quicker depending on how they gave it to you and how you understand it. Does that make sense? Typically, if I have a 45, 45, 90, I'll use the shortcut. I don't typically use SOHCAHTOA because it's so easy on 45, 45, 90. 30, 60, 90 I think is the one people get confused. So if you want to do SOHCAHTOA, you can. Okay, as long as it's right triangle. Number 11, find the perimeter and area of each parallelogram or triangle. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So we're finding perimeter and area. Something you need to keep in mind is we don't round until the final answer. If you round one of those sides and then you use that rounded answer and then you round that answer, you're going to be off by a bit, okay? So don't round to the end. So on this one, let's do area first. What was the formula for area again of a parallelogram? Obviously that's parallelogram. Base times height. By the way, I should probably go back. What makes a parallelogram a parallelogram? How many sides does it have? 4. And what do we know about the sides? The opposite sides are parallel, right? That's what a parallelogram is, okay? So what is the base of this parallelogram? 21. What's the height of this parallelogram? I don't know yet, right? This is our height, okay? This is a right triangle. So how are we going to find the missing side? Pythagorean theorem, just like always, right? If you feel like you need to write that down, you can, but you can also just use your calculator. I get that you know that by now. So we would take 8 squared, excuse me, nope, we would take 17 squared minus 8 squared and square root whatever is left. But if it's not perfect, let's just write down what it is. You should get 15. The height is 15. Is anyone not getting 15? Okay, so what is the area? 21 times 15. 315 feet squared. Area is always units squared. I'm pretty nice about units and not marking it wrong if you don't put them, but you really need to label the area and feet squared, okay? Perimeter is obviously the distance around the shape, okay? So if this is 21, what's this? 21. If this is 17, what's this? 17. So you can say 21 plus 17 plus 21 plus 17 if you want, or you can say 2 times 21 plus 2 times 17, and we get 76 feet. Do you see how I labeled one with an A, one with a P? So if you just have those two numbers and you don't tell me whether it's area or perimeter, I'm not going to try to figure it out for you. So you need to make sure you label everything. Okay? Did I lose anybody? Pretty easy, right? Okay. 13, same concept. On yours, though, this is dotted, right? This side and this side. So what that means is the actual triangle that we care about is this one here, okay? In your book, it's shaded like a super light tan, or I guess you could call it an orange, all right? So what is, we'll do area. This is obviously a triangle. What's the formula for the area of a triangle? 1/2 base times height, okay? So what's the base of this triangle? 30. The height, I don't quite know yet, right? So if this is a right triangle, how am I going to find this leg? Pythagorean theorem again, right? So you're going to take 10 squared minus 5 squared. Don't hit the square root sign. I want to get an exact answer. I don't want to round as I go. So what is 10 squared minus 5 squared? It's going to be root 75. Everybody take your time and actually get it, okay? Take your time, punch that in, and make sure you get, you'll get 75, but we know in our heads it's square root of 75, right? If you want to actually take the square root of 75, that's fine, but then you have to store it, or you have to go back up and highlight it and hit enter again. So it's probably easiest just to write it down. Okay, so go ahead and take 1/2 times 30 times the square root of 75 and round to the nearest tenth like they said. And what do you get? Mm-hmm. 129.9 meters squared, right? Perimeter is going to be the 30 plus the square root of 75 plus I don't know. How do I find the missing hypotenuse here? Pythagorean theorem again, right? You're going to take, I'll call this, I don't want to call it height, I'll call it x, I guess. You're going to take 30 squared plus square root of 75 squared equals, I don't know, squared, right? Whenever you square a square root, you're welcome to plug that into your calculator, but it's just going to give you 75, okay? So what do you end up getting without rounding? Don't round. Square root of 975 is what you should get. Everybody take your time and get it. And when you're done, we're going to add those 3 sides together. And now you can round at the end. What do we get? 69.9 meters. Did I lose anybody? Okay. Anyone still need that page? All right, number 15. What shape is this? Parallelogram. So my area is equal to, what's the formula? Base times height. What is the base of my parallelogram? What? Nope. The 38. What is the height of my parallelogram? 40. So remember I said the base and the height are always a perpendicular. So the 38 is your base and the 40 is the height, because 40 is also over here too, right? So if you wanted to think about it, they could have given you the 38 here. This is also 38 with the 40, if that's easier for you to see a base and a height that way. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that okay now? Okay. All right, so what's 38 times 40? 1,520 meters squared, is that right? Meters squared. Okay. And then perimeter is going to be the 40 plus the 40, right? 2 times 40. Plus, I don't know, I don't know. How do I find the other 2 sides? If you don't know today, what are you going to guess? Pythagorean theorem, okay? It's a right triangle. We have the 2 legs. So you're going to take 28 squared plus 38 squared equals, I don't know, and put a square root sign on it. Yes. It's going to be square root of 2228. Some of your calculators might have simplified that for you, or might have made that a decimal already, I suppose, but that's what I got, okay? So plus 2 times 2228 under a square root sign. And then round at the end. Take your time, actually punch it in with me, don't just listen, okay? And what do we get? Good, 174.4 meters. If you're not getting that, let me know. I also, before we move on to the next one, I want you to think about if that even makes sense, right? So we know that it's for sure 80 or more, right? So does 174.4 seem feasible? Yeah. If I got 1,744, I'd be like, I feel like I messed up somewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of nice to at least glance at it and be like, does that seem possible? Yeah, that's probably fine. Okay. All right. Anybody confused? Great. Next one. Find the area of each parallelogram. All they want is area this time. Okay. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So what is the area of a parallelogram? Base times height, right? What is the base of this parallelogram? 28. What is the height? I don't know, right? Does everybody get that I don't know? Okay. So this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So we're going to do both. We're going to do our special right triangle, and then I'll go back and do SOHCAHTOA for people who want that. Okay. So across, whoop, okay? Across from the 30 is your x. Across from the 60 is your x root 3, and the hypotenuse is 2x. Remember doing that a while ago? Okay? So if 2x is 30, then x is 15, right? So this side is 15. So this side is 15 root 3. Do you guys want me to say that again? Okay? Across from the 30 is your x. Across from the 60, because it has to be 60, is your x root 3, and your hypotenuse is 2x. The 30 is the only thing they gave me, so I have to start there. If 2x is equal to 30, divide by 2, x is 15. So that means the across from 30 side is 15, and the across from 60 side is 15 square root of 3. So my height is 15 square root of 3. And you plug and check. Nearest tenth. What do we get? Feet squared. 727.5 feet squared. Anyone not getting that and need help? Are we okay? Sometimes you do. So like when we get to a cylinder, I know we've done it before because I laid on the floor for you guys when I did it. Remember, like when we do a cylinder like this, this was the height, remember? And I was like, I'm 5'10" laying down, I'm 5'10" standing up. Like, that's still my height. So for these pictures today, what you said probably would be fine, but I don't want you to think that's like always the case. Does that make sense? Okay. Is everybody good with that picture? Okay. I'm going to go back and use SOHCAHTOA instead. So if you'd like to watch that option, that's fine too. So let me erase what we had. So I am needing, we already had the 28. We were looking for, I'll call the height x this time. I don't want to call it h because that in SOHCAHTOA means hypotenuse. You see what I'm saying? So I don't want to confuse you there. So I have this angle. From this angle, I have these two sides. I need to give them a name: opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. So the x is that opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse to the angle 30. Adjacent, very good. And the 30 is that opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. So if you go back, we have SOHCAHTOA. I have an A and an H. Which one is that? Yeah, this one, right? Cosine. So you say cosine of the angle, this guy, the 30, equals, they have the A and then the H, so adjacent over hypotenuse, right? To solve for x, it's being divided by 30, so I'm going to multiply by 30. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So you're going to make sure in degrees, right? You're going to take 30 times the cosine of 30. And what do we get? Yeah, 25.98 is probably what your calculators is the same, what your calculators would give you, okay? Which is 15 root 3. It's the same. If you're going to do this, though, you're going to keep that number in your calculator and multiply it by the 28. You don't want to use 25.98 because that's not really true. Does that make sense? Okay? So you have two choices. Do your 30, 60, 90 or do SOHCAHTOA. I don't care. Is anyone confused or not getting the right answer? No, you pick, if it's a quiz or a test, I don't ever force you to do one or the other. I just want you to get it right however you're comfortable. Makes no difference to me. So like on the next one, I think it's a 45, 45, 90. I do the shortcut, even though SOHCAHTOA is typically what I prefer. 45, 45, 90, in my opinion, is super quick, super easy. But if you did SOHCAHTOA, that's fine too. I don't care at all. So I just show some work. Okay? Find the area of each parallelogram again. Round to nearest, nearest tenth if necessary. So A equals BH again. What is the base of this parallelogram? 33.5. And we're looking for the height, right? They did not give us enough information to do Pythagorean theorem. That's not an option. Sort of. Okay? So we can do our 45, 45, 90, or we can do SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to do 45, 45, 90, right? If this is 45, then this is 45. If these angles are the same, then the sides across from them are the same, or x. Yeah, so if this is x 10.1, then this is x 10.1. Easy. You see what I'm saying? So in my opinion, that one was worth doing this shortcut. Okay? So you just take 33.5 times 10.1. What do we get? Yes, so they said nearest tenth, so I'm going to say 0.4. 338.4 centimeters squared. Does anyone want me to do SOHCAHTOA instead? Are you sure? Okay. You can if you'd like, right? Anyone still need that page? Okay. Again, area equals base times height. What's our base? 20. What's our height? 24. Didn't even have to do anything, right? So take 20 times 24. 480 meters squared. Everything needs a label. Have I lost anybody on the front page? Do I need to go back to anything? Okay, backside. There's words. In geometry, when there's words, what do? I knew someone would say cry. We don't cry. What do? We read, and then cry. And then draw a picture, right? So you're always wanting to draw a picture. Guys. All right, the height of a parallelogram, so I'm going to draw a parallelogram in a moment, is 1/4 of its base. If the area of the parallelogram is 36 square centimeters, find its base and height. Blah, 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 draw a parallelogram, right? So you don't have to draw it my way, but this is how I drew it. You can draw it vertically if you'd prefer. Oh, that's not pretty. Don't draw it my way. Don't do that. That was bad. Sure, that's fine. Okay, let's see here. We're going to have height. This is my height, right? The height of a parallelogram is 1/4 the base. What do you guys want to call the base? I don't know it. I'm going to call it a B. You call it x2, it's fine. I'm going to call it B. It makes sense to me. So if the height is 1/4 of the base, in math, what's of mean? Multiply. So 1/4 B. What? Yeah, that's the same. Sure, if you want. So area equals base times height. What did we call the base? I called it a capital B, whatever. I don't like lowercase b's because they look like sixes, but you call it whatever you want. And then the height is 1/4 B. What else did they give me that I haven't used yet? They said area. I wrote the formula for the area of a parallelogram. They said it's 36 square centimeters. So instead of area, I'm going to say 36. Does that make sense? Okay. So back to algebra 1. What's b times a fourth b? A fourth b squared. When you multiply, you add exponents. B to the 1 times b to the 1, you add, you get 2. Right? From here, what do we do with this 1/4? What's it doing to b? Multiplying, so what do we do? Divide. Since you have a calculator, dividing by a fourth is not a problem. If not, you would multiply by 4/1. Pick one, right? Whatever you want. What do we end up getting? 144 equals b squared. Now what do? Square root both sides. Technically, b is going to be plus or minus 12. Does negative 12 make sense for the side of any shape? Nope. So just positive 12 what? Centimeters. It asks you for base and height. So what's the height? What's a fourth times 12, or 12 divided by 4 is the same? 3 centimeters. Look at that again and see if you have a question somewhere. Anybody confused? Okay. On this one, it says a triangle. So whenever they ask a random triangle, they don't specify if it's a right triangle or acute or obtuse or whatever. I typically draw one like that, almost equilateral looking, okay? You don't have to. I just don't want to accidentally draw a right triangle and assume that it's right. That's not true. So what I want you guys to do is set up the picture and try to set up the formula and pause there, okay? Try to set something up without me. Okay, height of a triangle. Let's see here. 3 meters less than the base. So the whole thing, I'm going to call B for base. The height of the triangle is 3 meters less. How do I write that? B minus 3. That matters, right? You can't subtract in any order, so it's not the opposite. So make sure you did that right. So the area of any triangle is 1/2 base times height. For our triangle, it's 1/2 base again. Height is base minus 3. What else did they give me I haven't used yet? The 44 for the area, right? From here to algebra 1, okay? You can distribute now if you'd like to, but I find that when there's a fraction like this, a lot of people tend to get it wrong. So I think getting rid of it first is typically easier. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2/1, which I get 88 equals b times b minus 3. Okay? What do I do now? Distribute, right? So 88 equals b squared minus 3b. Is that okay? Okay. Whenever you have x squared or whatever, blah, 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 what do you want it equal to? 0. So 0 equals b squared minus 3b minus 88. I'll pause there. If I've lost you somewhere, ask me a question before we finish it. This is back to algebra 1 now. Are we okay? Okay. So from here, you can try to factor. If factoring is easy and quick, I think it's worth your time to do. If not, what could I do? Quadratic, right? So quadratic always works for x squared. That's fine. In my opinion, that one's a lot easier to mess up, though. So we're going to try to factor, especially because there's a 1 in front of the square. When there's a 1 in front of the square, the answer is the pair. Yeah, I think I've said that to you guys a lot, but it's the pair. So 1 times negative 88 is what we're doing right now. Okay? So we find factors of 88. We deal with the sign later. So like 1 and 88, 2 and 44, right? Can you guys just off the top of your head think of what multiplies to negative 88 and adds to negative 3? Your 11 and your 8, right? So I don't know about the signs yet, but I know 11 and 8, if I'm careful, can give me a negative 3. Does that make sense? Like I knew 1 and 88 wasn't going to work, okay? So if I needed to multiply to a negative, these signs have to be opposites, right? So one of them has to be negative, one has to be positive. If I wanted to add to a negative number, which one has to be negative? The bigger one or the smaller one? The bigger one, right? So I need it to be negative 11 and positive 8. So 0 equals, if there's a 1 in front of the square, the answer is the pair. You go straight to b minus 11 and b plus 8. If you wanted to check it, you could FOIL go backwards and make sure you got the line above it. Okay? So 0 equals b minus 11. 0 equals b plus 8. So what do I do to both sides here? How do I get b alone? Add 11. Okay. How do I get b alone here? Subtract the 8. Which one makes sense? The 11, right? Negative 8 doesn't make sense in this picture. You can't have a negative side. If you don't get factoring, that's not working for you. First of all, at some point you need to let me know. I also have a review video on YouTube. If you go to my, what is that? I keep, not playlist. What is it? No. Where you have a loop of, like, videos. Is playlist right? Oh, okay, I'm right. I have a playlist of like real quick review videos. There's like a 5-minute factor video. I'm not saying don't ask me. I'm just saying it's on there if you'd like to look at that. So if not, you would go from here and do your quadratic formula instead. Does anyone want me to do that instead? Okay, so if not, you guys don't have to watch me. That's fine. You can get started. I'm going to do quadratic formula. Keep in mind though, even if that was easy for you, if this wasn't a 1, it's not that easy. So you might want to watch quadratic formula anyway. So quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to write what we had again right next to it. So if you guys are moving on, that's fine. Just be quiet for a minute so I can finish this up, okay? So from where you had it equal to 0, we find out what a, b, and c are. A is the coefficient on x squared. Obviously here it's a b, but that's fine. A is the coefficient on x squared. B is the coefficient on x. C is just the constant. So what's a for this question? 1, b, negative 3, c, negative 88. So we're going to plug it in. Negative b is going to be positive 3 plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'll wait for you to copy that down, but all I did was plug it in. Okay, so from here, 3 plus or minus square root. Some people can plug this whole thing in and get it right. I find that to be super tricky, but if that works for you, great. Negative anything squared is a positive, so that's a 9. This is a negative times a positive times a negative, so that's a positive. 4 times 88, I don't know what that is. 352 all over 2. So then I go ahead and add those two together. 352 plus 9 is going to be 361 all over 2. Here's where I start using my calculator personally. So the square root of 361 is a perfect square. It's 19. So 3 plus or minus 19 over 2. That means 3 plus 19 over 2, and that means 3 minus 19 over 2. Am I going too fast? Are you guys okay? Okay. So what's 3 plus 19? 22 over 2 is 11. And then 3 minus 19, negative 16 over 2 is negative 8. So we ended up getting the same answers we had before, right? But the negative 8 doesn't make sense again. So those of you that skipped the quadratic formula, we didn't finish the problem. All we found was the base, right? They also asked us for the height. So if you go back to the question, it would be b minus 3. So what's 11 minus 3? 8. So we should say 8. What are we working with, meters? So make sure you answer both parts, okay? Do you guys need me to go back down to the quadratic? Or do you have it? Anybody confused? Okay. And then skip 22. Okay? Yeah.